Welcome everyone to another Meetup Live event. My name is Emily Trias. I am the events marketing intern here at Meetup. Today we are joined by special guest Amanda Nachman, author of Qualified and CEO of College Magazine. She is here to discuss how to adopt a qualified mindset and see all the ways in which your talents, passions, ideas, and skills are transferable. You'll discover how to uncover your strengths and make courageous connections. You will leave this event with tangible steps you need to launch your career with confidence. So before we get into it, I'm just going to go over a few guidelines and the agenda. So this event will be recorded, but you will not appear in the video. You can only see us. We can't see you. There is also a mute courtesy, so your audio will be muted during the event, but don't worry, if you have questions, you can submit them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And there is also closed captioning available. So to turn it on, just click on the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preferences from there. And today's agenda, so we're just doing a quick introduction right now, and then it will be followed by a presentation with Amanda, followed by a Q&A at the end. So just to quickly introduce Amanda, Amanda Nachman is the CEO of College Magazine, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Qualified. You are more impressive than you realize. She is also a keynote speaker and the host of Find Your Passion Career. Amanda has appeared on Good Morning America, Cheddar TV, and ABC 10. Her advice has been seen in Business Insider, NBC News, Today, and MarketWatch. As we recover from the pandemic, Amanda's message is more powerful than ever. You are qualified. She relates to all of us who has ever felt unqualified to go after their dreams and helps young professionals create an intentional life with human interactions filled with caring and gratitude to create a sustainable world. Amanda lives and works in San Diego, California, surrounded by a community of friends and her dog, Frankie. So before Amanda gets started with her part of the presentation, we would just like to share a poll that we put together that just helps us get to know you guys a little bit better. So I'm going to launch that right now. Can you guys see that? Can you see that, Amanda? Okay.
Promise we're asking really easy questions to get started here. And if you're just joining us, let us know where you're from and tell us about your ideal Saturday.
Most people are in around 40, 49. People sometimes feel stuck in their career. And sometimes they feel qualified to go after their career that they want. And they sometimes enjoy their job. Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine if you're showing up here, you're not thinking, oh my God, I'm totally thrilled with everything in my career, or I feel 100% qualified. You showed up for a reason.
All right. So I'll just end this here. That was really cool to see. So we kind of got an idea of who's here and who's listening. So that was really neat to see. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing that. So without further ado, I'll just let you, Amanda, take over, and I can't wait to hear all the advice you have for us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here, meet up with all of you today. Before I get started, I want to tell you about my ideal Saturday and something that happened. So I live here in sunny San Diego. It was an 80-degree day, and I was really looking forward to getting out to the beach, getting in the water, and surfing. I recently picked up surfing. I'm still a beginner, so I'm not very good, but I love it. But as soon as I got in the water, I got stung by a stingray. So instead of a relaxing day at the beach, I spent my Sunday in excruciating pain from the venom at a lifeguard station and then later at urgent care. You might be thinking, why is she telling me this story? I'm here for advice about my career. But when I think back to this moment, it reminds me that there are things outside of my control. And maybe you've felt this way lately too, especially with your career. But there are some things in your control, and that's feeling qualified. So today, I'm going to help you achieve a qualified mindset so that you can navigate your career with confidence. Wouldn't it be nice to surf the waves of your career with ease? But as soon as you step in the water, there's a stingray. You couldn't have predicted it. Today it's a stingray, tomorrow it's a jellyfish, and it holds you back. It creates this feeling that keeps you far from the water. And it whispers to you, am I really qualified? Who are you to do that job, to get that promotion? This feeling robs you from a career that you deserve. You miss out on opportunities, and you miss out on connections with amazing people. Now think back to a time where you felt qualified. Maybe you were leading a meeting and you were on fire. Or perhaps you were working on a product pitch. You were really in the zone. Or a coworker came to you asking for advice on a difficult problem, and you knew exactly how to solve it. Think back to that feeling. How do we bottle up that feeling? Because we definitely don't feel qualified when we're looking for a change and we find ourselves surfing job boards, looking at descriptions that barely describe a human being. You look at one bullet point about something that you haven't done before, and you can't help but feel unqualified. It's crippling. And don't even get me started on the sting of rejection, like the time I wanted to be a magazine editor. So I applied to 3 magazine internships. I was rejected from all 3. So clearly the magazine professionals were telling me that I wasn't qualified. So I added in supporting evidence to justify my rejection. I wasn't even a journalism major. How dare I apply for these internships? And then I amplified it. I'm a total failure already. Have you ever felt like this before? You may have felt this way back in high school when you don't make it onto the volleyball team. And it happens again when you're in college and maybe you don't get into that coveted business program. And again, as you start your career from the first job rejection to the many rejections that follow as you advance. In your 30s and 40s, there will still come the day that no matter how many certifications you have to your name, you may still feel unfit to lead a team or go after that vice president role. It's a vicious cycle. As we grow up, we gain more experience, but it never feels enough for what's next. This happens to me all the time. In my business, I have all of these new initiatives and projects that I want to do, like the podcast I wanted to launch, the book I wanted to write, the keynote speeches I wanted to give. Even with over a decade of experience, as I looked ahead to these new projects and the uncertainty of it all, I couldn't help but think, am I really qualified to do this? Now, I promise you this is not a doomsday message. You might be thinking, Amanda, why are you telling me that I'm going to constantly step into uncertain waters and get stung? Okay, yes, I am telling you this, but there's a silver lining. While you can't control the rejection. You can control feeling unqualified. In fact, it's science. According to a study out of Michigan, according to a study out of University of Michigan, when you experience rejection, your brain perceives it the same as physical pain, and it eats away at your self-esteem. So your brain will try to prove your rejection story, but the impact of that rejection comes down to what it means to you. You get to decide. So let's flip the script. Instead of you didn't get that job because you're not good enough, let's try you didn't get that job and it's not personal. Because what does it mean to be qualified anyway? Don't unqualified people get the job all the time? According to a study by Hewlett-Packard, women feel they need to meet 100% of job criteria before even applying. Every bullet point on that job description. And LinkedIn's data supports this stat. Women are applying to 20% fewer jobs than men. Let that sink in. This means we each interpret qualified differently. So you get to decide. Look, when I didn't get those magazine positions, I definitely didn't feel qualified. But instead of giving up hope, I took 3 actions for a qualified mindset that I'm going to share with you today. When my slide decides to also share this with you. There we go. I sparked courageous connections. I unleashed my strengths, and I leveled up my story. And these actions gave me the experience and the confidence to later start my own magazine called College. I had this idea to create a magazine for students by students that would help them be successful in college. I flyered around my campus, the University of Maryland, go Terps if I've got any Terps out there, and students showed up to write for it. What a cool feeling. And then I sold enough ads to print the first 5,000 copies and hustled like crazy. I even hand distributed thousands of magazines and grew to 14 campuses on the East Coast. Today, College Magazine reaches millions of readers online. We have had the opportunity to work with national brands like Vitamin Water and Staples. And I've launched a writer training program that has helped hundreds of aspiring journalists go after their dream careers. In fact, many of my student writers have graduated and gone on to careers at Fox, Mashable, Random House, National Geographic, and more. But they didn't start out at these premier brands. They often felt lost on their career journey and felt unqualified and settled for jobs that they didn't love. And I found myself coaching my graduates on how to achieve a qualified mindset. It's been a process that I've been documenting for years. And I've also interviewed dozens of professionals on my podcast who have had these amazing nonlinear career journeys and have persevered through rejection in order to pursue work that they love. Today, I get to share this message on stages and in my book, Qualified, and with you here today. So what if I had waited for someone to tell me that I was qualified? Will you? Instead, let's take those actions. We're going to start by sparking courageous connections. Anna was a recent grad and a previous editor at College Magazine. And after graduation, she took a job that she just didn't love. She felt like she wasn't able to flex her creativity, which was a shame coming from one of my most creative writers. She felt lost about her next steps. Should she go back to school or look for a new job or change industries altogether? Maybe you felt this way before too, feeling like you've got all these options, but you're just not quite sure how to get started. So I asked Anna if she had reached out to anyone in the media industry that she admired. And she paused and she said she felt silly that she hadn't thought to do that. She thought, why would someone want to talk to me? And here's the thing, she's not alone. Most of us set out to chase our dreams all by ourselves. I know that solo travel is where it's at, okay, pre-COVID, but the qualified journey is not a solo journey. I encouraged Anna to reach out to one person every day in her industry that she admired and find out how they got to where they are. And she did. I call this a DM a day. And she actually texted me every day with the person that she reached out to. And you can do this too. I'm serious. Stay tuned to the end and I will let you know how you can stay in touch with me. And I will be your accountability partner. Anna ended up speaking with a copywriter at Wayfair, an editor at The Atlantic, a content manager, a grant writer, and more. She was so surprised how each person was more than willing to give her 15 minutes of their time. Think about it. If someone looked up to you and wanted your time and advice, wouldn't you be willing to give it? These courageous connections gave Anna clarity. She said she felt more inspired and less lonely. Anna's now at a new job in a creative writing role that she loves at HubSpot. She's not a master of networking. She just wanted to get closer to her dream career. So if Anna can do it, you can do it. Here's how. I want you to head to LinkedIn and look for someone who's in your dream career, or simply someone who's doing something that you think is cool. Don't go for the CEO or the director. Look for someone that's maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of where you want to be, ahead of where you are now, because this person's going to be a little more accessible and they're not getting messages like this every day. So they're going to be flattered. And here's what you say. You let them know that you're passionate about their work and that you would be honored to learn about their career journey. I'm going to repeat that one. Honored to learn about their career journey. You want to learn about them? Then make the ask. 15 minutes of their time for an informational interview. Now, I made a TikTok about DM a day and it went viral and I got a ton of messages saying, what do I write? What do I write? So I actually put together a LinkedIn template that you can use. And you're welcome to go to my site and get it, or stay to the end and I'll let you know how I can send this your way after the talk. So now for the hardest part. Look, I didn't say this was going to be easy. You've got to hit send. I know, an entire step dedicated to this dreadful moment. But you got to hit send. I had a friend ask me to edit a DM that she was going to send over LinkedIn, and she never hit send. True story. You cannot make a courageous connection if you do not hit send. And really, what's the worst that can happen? Even if you only hear back from half the people you reach out to in a month's time, that's still 15 new connections and potential mentors that will be cheering you on in your career journey. This is why I call it a courageous connection. No one's forcing you to do this. It takes courage. So now that you've done what most people are simply unwilling to do, are you ready to unleash your strengths? Sarah had spent about 5 years building her career in finance at JP Morgan. But then she made a radical change. She knew it wasn't what she really wanted to do. And she felt passionately about film and wanted to work in the film industry in some way. She could only point to the fact that she grew up loving making these videos for her parents. She would put photos and set it to music. And this was pre-iMovie, so that was kind of hard to do back then. But that was kind of the only experience she could point to. And she wasn't hearing back from film opportunities because of her experience in finance. Sometimes it's hard for other people to connect the dots of where you are now and where you'd like to be in the future. Let's connect the dots for them. Sarah looked to her strengths. She knew that she was creative, analytical, and hardworking. She knew that she had a lot to offer. So she took to Craigslist and she looked for anybody that needed help on a film set that day or needed a PA for the day. And she unleashed her strengths. Here's what she found. Every person that I met wanted to introduce me to the next person. If you're willing to show up, work really hard, and be clear about where it is you're trying to go, people want to help you get there. By unleashing her strengths in these small opportunities, doors started to open. And Sarah got her next opportunity at a film festival. And from there, many more opportunities came her way into her latest role, where she got to combine her analytical side and her creative side in a senior vice president role at TEDx, which provides last-minute theater tickets to people. You can uncover and unleash your strengths too. Start by thinking about your BFF. How would you describe them? Think about your best friend's strengths. Are they loyal? Are they inspiring? Are they funny? I bet you that a ton of positive adjectives came to mind. Now, what if I asked you to describe you? It doesn't always come as easy to think about all the ways in which we shine. So in order to uncover your strengths, you need to carve out that time to be your BFF. And better yet, after this talk, reach out to your best friend and ask them, what are some of your strengths? You may discover a strength that you hadn't realized. And once you've carved out this time, I want you to see if you can write down 20 strengths. I know it's a long list, but I promise you that you'll need this list anytime you face that sting of rejection and anytime you feel unqualified. How do you know you're feeling unqualified? You're probably saying something like this. I call these the buts. But I don't have experience, but it won't happen for me, but I'm too old, but I don't know how to start. Are you guilty of saying one of these? I bet you I have a lot of smiles, a lot of nods. Let's turn it around. I can build experience. Why not me? I'm never too old. Start now. Don't wait for permission. You can unleash your strengths and start building your qualified and feeling more confident today. You can volunteer, you can side hustle, you can intern, you can join organizations. You've already started by showing up here. Yeah, I'm serious. Meetup is a great place to find people with like-minded interests who will help you achieve your goals. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here on Meetup Live, okay? I've been a big proponent of Meetup even before joining you today. You don't need permission to start building your qualified and unleashing your strengths. Now, for the third action. we're going to level up your story. Otherwise, you start to tell a pretty watered down version. Think about the story that you tell about yourself. Dan is a great example of someone who is telling a watered down version. He was a Penn State grad and a former editor-in-chief at College Magazine. And when Dan graduated from college, he faced rejection from over 20 jobs. His confidence had plummeted. He kept getting the interview, but he wasn't getting the offer. So I offered to help him with his interview skills. We got on a call and I said, Dan, tell me about your time at College Magazine. What a softball, right? I knew what he did at College Magazine. And Dan answered, well, I oversaw a team of writers and I determined what would get published on the site. And I was shocked. I was like, Dan, did you seriously just sum up an entire year of your hard work and leadership at College Magazine into one very dull sentence? Clearly, Dan was bored with his story. And maybe you felt this way before too. A day in your life isn't as interesting to you, but it's to someone who's never lived a day in your life. I said, Dan, you recruited and mentored and trained our team of writers and editors. They looked up to you. You led team meetings. You taught social media tactics. You taught how to conquer active versus passive voice. You even had an article go viral with over 20,000 shares. Dan laughed. He agreed that he needed to level up his story. On his next interview with a publication called The Street, Dan got the job. You can level up your story too, just like Dan. I want you to think about your last boss, your recent boss, a mentor, someone who's seen you in your element, someone who's seen you when you felt qualified. Think about that person, who that might be, and ask them. When they tell you that you're amazing and all of the incredible things that you've done, that gives you permission to tell that story. This is someone whose judgment you trust. So believe them when they tell you just how amazing you are. Then I want you to write down those moments where your strengths shine. Think about those moments, like the time when you designed, ordered the t-shirts for your company's softball team. To me, that sounds like a creative and reliable leader. Write down these moments. And I want you to think about the very real impact these leveled up stories can have. Like when you're in an interview or you're going for that promotion. And especially when you're making a courageous connection. See how I connected those dots there? When you make a courageous connection and you get that informational interview, you want to show up curious. When you show up curious about someone, they're going to show up curious about you. And that's where your leveled up story comes into play. People gravitate to these stories. And more often than not, they're going to see a little bit of themselves in your story, and they're going to want to help you succeed. So what are some ways you can get curious? You can ask questions like, what do you enjoy most about your company? That way, that person gets a chance to share about their experience, and you're going to learn what it's like at their company. That can help you make a more informed decision if this is someplace you might like to work. You can ask, what was your journey like? This is where you get the blueprint for how they got from point A to point B. We know there's a million points in between. You're going to understand how they built their qualified to get where they are so that you can do the same. Whatever you do, please do not ask for a job. That's not why you're here with them. You're here to learn. Remember that you're there to get the blueprint. I don't know why these slides are sticking. Let me see if I can refresh it. Okay. You're there to get the blueprint and to learn how to grow, right? To understand the steps that you can take to get where they've gotten in their career. You're going to get the career details, the ins and outs of what it's like to be in that role. How creative do they get to be? Are they in team meetings a lot? Are they getting to be challenged? And then you can decide if this is what you really want to pursue. You're also building your network, and that helps you open up opportunities and doors that maybe you didn't realize existed and doors you didn't know could be opened. And you're also getting an opportunity to find a really great mentor, which is why after you made that courageous connection and you've had that informational interview, you want to send a follow-up thank you. And that's a perfect opportunity, if you had a great connection with that person, for you to stay in touch and ask for feedback on that resume or ask them on tips for how to build your qualified. Remember that time that I was rejected from 3 internships? I certainly haven't forgotten. Instead of giving up hope, I took those 3 actions and I started by making a courageous connection. I reached out to the editorial assistant at Washingtonian magazine and I asked for a 15-minute informational interview. And she said yes. This was one of the publications that rejected me. So it just goes to show it's not personal. And in that 15-minute informational interview, I learned that she started by writing for her campus magazine. I hadn't even thought to do that. My campus magazine was called Unwind, and the very next week, I went to their next meeting, and there wasn't even an application process. I got my first article assignment. It was to cover a Ben Folds concert. Sham on for any of my Ben Folds fans out there. I can't even begin to describe how amazing it felt to get that first article published, to see my byline in print. I then used that clip to get my next internship at Washington Spaces magazine. And it was that experience where I unleashed my strengths and leveled up my story. And I made some amazing connections with the team there that I looked to as mentors when I went to launch my own magazine. The qualified journey isn't a vicious cycle. It's a step ladder. It builds. I want you to think about where you were 5 years ago. And think about how far you've come. You've been there before, and you can do it again. Now that you are more than ready to spark courageous connections and unleash your strengths and level up your story, you are now more than prepared to navigate your career with confidence. And just imagine a world where we all feel qualified to go after our dreams. That stingray, has got nothing on me, and it's got nothing on you. You are qualified. Now, I've got some free resources for you all, and I'm giving away a free coaching session. This is something I rarely do, but I'm just so honored to be here today. And I really just want to thank all of you for coming. It means so much. And yeah, I've got a lot of resources to offer you, like my perfect script and access to my 30-day qualified challenge, which is also free. So all you do is you go to gettalk.at/qualified. And by the time we get to the Q&A, you're going to have these free resources in your inbox. So I'm going to walk you through it. So you get your phone out. Yes, it's a picture of my dog in the background there. So you got to do it now because you know you're going to forget later. And I want you to have these resources, right? Like when you're making these courageous connections and I know you're about to hit send and you're like, I don't know if this sounds okay. Use the script. This is a tried and true script. I have, you heard the story with Anna, you've heard the story with Dan. That's what my coaching is like. When you are faced with these fears about reaching out or figuring out your next steps, that's what I like to offer, is that help. And so, yeah, head to your phone, type in gettalk.at. And once you're there, all you do is put in your email. And then in your inbox, you're going to get the perfect script. And you're going to get access to my 30-day qualified challenge, which is pretty cool because you're going to get a message from me cheering you on every step of the way. Like I said, I will be your accountability partner. And it's pretty cool. You can actually just reply to the email and you'll be in touch with me. So, and you'll be entered in to win coaching. So I rarely give away coaching, but if you want someone that's cheering you on, just like you heard with the stories at Dan and Anna, that's what I do. I want to help you navigate your career with confidence. And there's a couple ways that you can do that by staying in touch and yeah, coaching. If you're interested in coaching too, reach out, let me know. If you're interested in getting a speaker for your next event, please definitely reach out. And one more thing, just another thank you to all of you. I'm giving away 2 signed copies of my book, Qualified, right here. And how to do that, how to enter is tomorrow. Look out on Meetup's Instagram. And you got to like the post, you tag a friend, you know the drill, and then follow me and Meetup. And you'll be entered in to win a signed copy of Qualified. I'm giving away 2 copies. And thank you so much. It was wonderful speaking with you all, and I cannot wait to hear your questions. And I will see you at the Q&A.
Hi again. That was great. I just wanted to say that I loved everything you brought up. I feel like from my experience in college, they always talk about how to be successful, but they never talk about what happens when you do get rejected and like how to build yourself back up from that, because that can be kind of like mentally destroying.
Oh my gosh, yes. Even one rejection, that's like all it takes, because your brain is actually telling you, it's saying you're not qualified. Like you can't help but then add that supporting evidence. Yeah, I think that's really a great point. No one really talks about the rejection. No one's like, hey, let me tell you about how I was rejected from this job. People are like, let's not talk about that story.
Exactly. And I love that you're doing it so that people are more comfortable with the topic and know that it happens.
It's normal. Actually, on my podcast, whenever I interview like these really amazing people that are in these like top roles, they're at the height of their career, I take them back. I'm like, how did you feel back when you recently graduated? Or let's talk about that first job or those rejections. And they'll share those stories and they'll be like, yeah, I was totally lost. I couldn't see that it was going to be better. I felt terrible. I felt unqualified. And we all have those experiences. And I want to normalize it.
Definitely. And I love the tip you gave about writing down your strengths, because I think that definitely brings you back and to realize, oh, I am better than these rejections are making me think I am.
Yeah, you have so much value to offer. And just because one opportunity didn't see it, it's not personal.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to hop into Q&A. We have a few questions here for you. So Frank asked, your example with Anna and courageous connections presumes you know it is what you want. What if you are unclear about that and feel lost about what is right for you?
Yeah, good question. Like, how do you know what you want?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ask me, what if I don't know what I'm passionate about? And in this talk, I'm talking about what to do when you know what you want, right? When you have an idea of something that interests you and you want to go after it. If you're unsure about what you want, I cover a lot of that in my book and in other talks that I give, actually, about finding your passion. And passion can be a really, it can be like a red button word for some people. They're like, oh, I hate that word. Like, I don't have a passion. And I really define passion as not this like extreme level 10, like, I love this thing, I must achieve it. It can be a level 1 passion. It could just be something that like, you're like, that's cool. That would be fun. I could see myself enjoying doing that. And you start with that. And to me, passion is also the intersection of your interests, your strengths, and your values. So when I break that down in my book too, about how to uncover your passion. And Frank, please reach out to me after you get the talk resources, and I can send you a couple more resources on how to uncover your passion and some great questions to ask yourself to help get to that answer.
I love that because passion can be intimidating for some people.
Yeah.
Danielle asked, how do I uncover my transferable skills / strengths when I am transitioning to a new industry? What sites or templates would you recommend? Looking to get into property management, construction from budget project management.
Yeah, great question, right? It's hard to connect the dots. It's hard for other people to connect the dots, and sometimes it's hard for ourselves to connect the dots. So when you are looking at those new roles, instead of thinking, oh, I've never done that before, that like one specific action, and therefore I'm unqualified, look at those roles and look for the areas that do sound familiar. Like maybe they're like, we want you to lead a team in this way, but you can say, okay, wait, lead a team. I've led a team over here in my current industry. When they say we're looking for new ideas about this and this and this, you can think back to those times where you were inventive and you pitched new ideas in your current role. And if you're having trouble connecting those dots, that's a great time to reach out to your best friend and a mentor or a boss, someone that you trust, who can help you see that you've got a lot to offer. You've got a lot of skills that are transferable. Most jobs, you really do learn the work on the job, right? Unless you're coming there to consult and come in there to do a specific thing that, you know, they're not looking to hire you to be part of their team, but to come in and to execute something. But most jobs, you're coming in there and you are going to learn as you go. But what you need to bring to the table are actually those soft skills. It's not always this hard knowledge. It's the soft skills of being a great listener, being a team player, taking initiative, meeting deadlines. That applies to just about every industry.
Yeah, I definitely think that applies to with college students, because if you don't have a lot of experience behind you, like you just kind of have to be creative and think of like what you're good at and look at like job descriptions and pick out like what you can kind of relate to and have a little bit of experience in.
I hear from college students all the time, I hear the phrase, I don't have experience. And it's just not true, because the work that you're doing in your classes, those are simulations of the work that you're gonna be doing in the real world. When you're putting together a PowerPoint presentation, that's very much what happens in the workplace. And when you're, you know, putting together a paper, when you're researching competitors on a project, you know, we research competitors in real life careers. So look to those moments and then tell those stories. And that's your leveled up story right there.
Nancy asked, I applied for a job, the perfect job. I could actually check off every box. Then they emailed to say the job was on hold. I was so disappointed. What can I do to let them know I'm still interested?
Yeah, that I can like feel that disappointment. And I think we've all been there and can relate to that moment where you're like, this role like screams me. I know I can do this. I'm going to crush it. And maybe they see it too. But sometimes, yeah, timing is not right. I've been told projects have been on hold. I've consulted for other companies and put together an entire proposal and got to the point where we were about to sign. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna wait on this. We're gonna go in a different direction. you have to remind yourself that's not personal. But I think that's a great idea to let them know you're still interested. So, you know, you don't want to give it away that you're like, this is life or death, but let them know, like, I really appreciate your time and I'm still interested and looking forward to hearing from you. I can check in the next week to see where you're at on this decision. You can let them know, or you can even ask, would that be all right if I checked in with you in the next 2 weeks? And we can set up a time to discuss further.
Anonymous asked, what if you are not the type to admire people? How do you gush about someone when you are seeking an informational interview?
I don't think you need to gush so much as just let them know that you would be appreciative of their time. And I think that's a pretty basic ask if you are, you know, ask of you to write that if you are asking for their time, right? To say, I would really appreciate your time. So to learn about what you do in your work. I think what you do is really interesting. Okay, so feel free to swap out some of those words that I might have in that perfect script for synonyms you feel more comfortable with. But at the end of the day, the idea isn't, let me tell you all about me and why you should talk to me and why you should help me get a job. It should be, I want to learn about you and what you're doing and how you got to where you are, because I think that's super interesting. And people are going to feel honored to hear that.
Yeah, people are always willing to help. Diane asked, what if you are mid-career and getting a lot of rejections? How do you prove you can do the job?
Yeah, I think this takes me back to Sarah's story because, and for Sarah, you know, she was making a radical change in her career, but you might say, I'm not even making a change, but I'm not hearing back or I'm getting rejections. Again, it's not personal. That's where these connections come in, making the courageous connections. So I would say it's a mix of Anna and Sarah, right? So making those connections, because oftentimes you might be applying and it goes into this void. It goes into this, you know, bucket of all these other applicants. So you want to make sure you have some sort of connection or tie to this company and this opportunity where you're top of mind and you're not getting looked over. So that's number one, is having those connections. But number two is, I would say from Sarah's story, look, if you're facing that rejection again and again, maybe there is an opportunity for you to build your qualified and prove, right, that you can do this in some small ways. So for instance, like if you wanted to show that you had the skills to make a website, right, start building a small website, right? If you want to show that you have the skills to blog, start blogging. In Sarah's case, she wanted to show that she could be an asset to a team that was making a film. So she was on a film set. And even though she was starting at the bottom as a PA for the day or in a small role, just doing whatever she could to help, that gave her the experience of being on that set and access to all the connections in the industry. And that opened doors to opportunities.
Matt asked, I'm confident until I have a real interview. Is it okay to schedule real interviews just for practice?
Sure. Yeah. Get all the practice you can. And I think too, lean on your BFF, lean on a mentor or boss, a past boss, and ask them if you can do a practice round. So that way you can practice that leveled up story, practice answering from the heart, you know, why you want this opportunity and why you're the best fit.
And even if Matt does do the interview just for practice, it could end up turning into an actual career. So why not?
Yeah, I've heard some people do that just to practice turning down an opportunity that's not the right fit, or practice negotiating. I mean, I think that that's amazing to flex those skills.
Adele asked, how can you tell difference between qualified and fit? No, I know I'm qualified, but how can I really know about fit? How do I respond when it is fit and when you are not getting a job?
Yeah, fit can be something more. It's like, am I the right culture fit? Would someone enjoy working with me? Like, would that team dynamic, would I fit within that team dynamic, for instance? And that's a great question. A good way to figure that out could be through the courageous connections process, because you're talking to people who are at different companies in and it could still be the same role, but you're going to get a sense of what it's like at their company. They might say, yeah, here we're given a lot of space and freedom to innovate and have, and to work solo on projects. And someone else might say, hey, we're in meetings all the time and we're collaborating and bouncing ideas off each other. Someone might say, oh, it's really cutthroat over here. When you get that information, that's when you can decide if you're the right fit. And I think kind of gives you the power to decide if you're the right fit versus letting them decide if you're the right fit. So I would encourage you to make those courageous connections and take the challenge of 30 days of courageous connections.
Anonymous asked, should I answer employer questions for salary needs? It's an optional answer sometimes, and sometimes it's not.
If I ask my friend who works in HR, she will say, never disclose your salary range, but it's an opinion. Everyone has a different take on that. And I think that you need to go with your best judgment. I don't want to advise you one way or the other. It's not a wrong or right answer. Everyone has a preference. And I think at the end of the day, though, you need to know, what it is you're going in there for, maybe what's your high, what's your low, if you are negotiating, and always pitch something higher than what you're willing to accept, because you don't want them to come in lower in terms of negotiating, and then you've already pitched your lowest number. So that's just a basic negotiation tactic. But yeah, I think that another thing is that I would look toward other people in your industry and find out where they're at, get that information so you have that going in before negotiating.
The same person also asked, should I answer ethnicity and gender questions or leave it anonymous? I wonder if it could hurt my chances.
Companies shouldn't be collecting that information without that being anonymous. So if you're filling out that information, it's because it's anonymous. So it should not have, it won't be seen by anyone in terms of their decision-making.
Another anonymous said, thanks for sharing your perspective on making connections and feeling qualified. I recently moved to a different country and I had to take a career break for around a year and a half. How do I build the courage to restart career after a break?
I think that that's a great time to, you've got some time, right? Carve it out to look at your strengths. And even if you were on a break, you probably weren't doing totally nothing. You can relate, like some people might say, some of the things that I've done as a parent are transferable to what I might do. My organization skills, my planning skills, caretaking, look to those moments where your strengths shined. And then previously in your previous career, look to those moments. I think, you have to take the time to build yourself back up, build up that confidence by remembering those stories, writing them down, talking about them with the people that you trust. And so that way you feel confident going into an interview and applying for something new.
Another person asked, I'm torn between two related career paths. I watch a lot of webinars on both directions, attend meetups, etc., but still haven't been able to make headway in a decision. I am interviewing in both directions. I've been working in UX and am haunted that my previous long project management role in architecture would be more beneficial as a product manager. I just haven't had the training experience title as that wasn't a role in architecture.
This sounds like a really specific example, which I love. And feel free to follow up with me and let me know the story more. Because if I understand it correctly, it sounds like what you were doing before points to another role, but with the role that you want isn't exactly what you were doing before. And you're worried about how you can connect those dots without certain training, if I understand this correctly. And if that's the case, why not go for that training or see how you can build up that experience in a different way, right? So there's not always this formal, I need to go back to school process, but there are other ways to get that type of training or get that kind of experience. Maybe there could be an online course or an online group that works on these things. There could be YouTube channels dedicated to this topic, blogs dedicated to it that you could start reading on, research around that topic, right? There's all these other ways to build up your knowledge about what it is that you're going for. And again, speak to people that are in that role now and find out the steps that they took, especially if they did take a non-traditional path. So I think that that's what I would recommend. In terms of whether you know which one to go for, I would say that's you don't have to make a decision today, right? You can see what happens and then make a decision from there. But at the end of the day, I want to encourage you to go with what you're passionate about. And if it's that other role that may not seem like the perfect fit from what you're doing now, connect the dots for them.
I think all those answers were really helpful. We have one more question. People are asking if you could share the email link again. It's not working, they're saying.
Oh, it's not working. Uh-oh. Okay, so it's gettalk.at/qualified. And I'm like, it's not working. I want to try it. Let's see. Get talk. Is it working for anybody at all? Okay, so I just went to it and it should look like this. And then you put your email in and you will get an email with those free resources and you'll be entered in to win coaching.
Okay.
Can we drop that link in the chat maybe, if that might help?
Yeah, it was just put in the chat. So hopefully that works.
Nice.
All right, well,
you guys are amazing.
Thank you. And thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you for your time and sharing your insights with us. But before we go, we would just like to share a few more slides. So we are currently running a college student promotion. We want to help college students find meaningful connections. So we are giving away a free 6-month subscriptions to start your own group. So all you need is a university email address and you can scan that QR code and sign up. And then we also launched our podcast, Keep Connected with Meetup CEO David Siegel, earlier this year. So if you guys also want to scan this QR code with your phone and just take a listen whenever you want. I'll just give you a second. And as a final reminder, you guys can do a recap of this event in a few days on our Community Matters blog at meetup.com/blog. So thank you, Amanda, and thanks everyone again for joining us, and stay safe.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.